So what is actually happening with the Pokemon market at the moment? Because if you are new to this field, or if you're just coming into Pokemon collecting or Pokemon investing, you're probably coming in to one of the most hyped periods within history. And I'm not just saying that to sound like I have a hot take. There's actually some data to back up the cause that I'm saying, which I'm going to be taking you through that today. Right now, we are in such a crazy period, man. And if you've just came into the hobby, I'd like to say welcome. And if it is your first time on this channel, my name is Phil. I run this Pokemon collecting and investing YouTube channel. Please feel free to subscribe to the channel. Honestly, I'd love to have you on board. Though what's really taken me by surprise, and I think a lot of collectors and creators and everyone in the space, is just how much some cards are exploding in value and how much some cards that were previously chase cards are entering new highs. Highs that I didn't think we would see happening. And you know, sometimes we get a lot of naysayers in this hobby and they say, oh, Pokemon's at its threshold. It can't really rise anymore. Evolving Skies has hit its peak. Umbreon has hit its peak. Everything has hit its peak. Though what's kind of weird, and a lot of these things are being said by a community of people, but the opposite is happening. In fact, Pokemon cards and collectibles continue to grow in value. But not only are they continuing to grow in value, but more and more people are entering the hobby. Now, I can only go from what I know with this channel, right? Because I started this channel earlier this year, but I'm going through the comments. I'm seeing what people are saying, and I'm just seeing, wow, man, there is so many newcomers entering. It is crazy. And I think any creator in this space can notice this at the moment. And I think anyone that's just in Pokemon collecting can notice this. You know, whenever I open up YouTube, I just see, hey man, I just got back into Pokemon collecting. Hey, I've just saw what's happening with the hype. And there's a few reasons for this, right? So obviously we have the big one, which is Surging Sparks has just been released. It's literally sold out. You have to pay overs to get the product. You can't get it for reasonable pricing. And this is pretty much the first time we've seen this in a very, very long time on release. So Pokemon 151 did have booster bundles sell out on release, but you would have had no problem getting an ETB or a UPC when the release schedule happened, right? Surging Sparks is the complete opposite. We are actually seeing that on release day, you're struggling to get it. So if you didn't pre-order Surging Sparks, you are not going to be getting that at the moment. The Pokemon Center ETB is very hard to get. So this is actually very strange for people who have been collecting, you know, for the last 2-3 years, because we haven't seen this happen for a very long time. Like Celebrations did have this, but then Pokemon upped the printing demands to meet demand for Celebrations. Whereas for Surging Sparks, this is very rare to happen on release. You should be able to get product on release. I, for one, am very surprised, and I think this has caused a lot of hype. But not only have you got the Surging Sparks hype and all that that's happening with that, and obviously if you want to get the product, you do need to pay a little bit more than retail price, but we've also got Prismatic Evolutions coming out in January, which is literally Evolving Skies 2.0. Now, if you are new to the hobby, Evolving Skies was pretty much one of the biggest Pokemon sets in history, and it kind of made modern Pokemon become what they are today. It had the Moonbreon chase card, and it had a lot of evolutions within the set along with Rayquaza, which made it very desirable, right? And it became one of the first products to sell out so quickly, and the demand was just insane, and it kind of brought Pokemon cards to a new level, and it kind of really made modern Pokemon cards be what they are. I do think Evolving Skies was one of the turning points where Pokemon collecting really became far more interesting. Though in saying that, Evolving Skies did have a lot of problems as well, which I do unpack in this video here. You can watch that later if that interests you. I kind of go over some of the issues with Evolving Skies as well. Because don't forget, right, when Sword and Shield era finished, we had the alternate arts. We were coming off such a high, man. You had such good quality getting released. Then obviously when the Scarlet and Violet era started, a lot of people were struggling to move on from Sword and Shield. You know, the start of an era is usually a little bit more muted. It's not as hype. You know, it doesn't have, the artworks aren't that wild. It doesn't have the crazy pull rates. And then as you slowly go on in the generation, you get the crazy hype and the momentum builds, which we are kind of now seeing play out in real time. And I think a lot of people are now getting very invested in the Scarlet and Violet era. Though I was mentioning before how I was talking about how Pokemon cards are in a really weird state. And I can notice it because obviously I run this channel on how much demand there is for Pokemon collecting at the moment. Now as well, if you are new here, a lot of people that watch my channel know this, but I am a marketing professional and I do a lot of video marketing and reading analytics and creating campaigns for clients. So that is my profession. So I want to just take you over some very simple marketing data, right? Now I'm on Google Trends, right? Now Google Trends is not something that we can make definitive decisions about. It's just something nice to look at to see general popularity, right? Though I would never look at Google Trends to try to determine anything or try to predict where a card's price will go. It has no correlation with that at all, but I do like to look at it for search terms on Google. Now I am looking at the search term Pokemon cards in the last 5 years on a worldwide scale. Now I want you to check this out, right? So you can see right here, this was around 2020, March 2020, where I'm hovering at right now. And you can see that it wasn't that crazy, the demand. You can see the search terms were quite low. You go over here, which we're looking at right now, which is March 2021, and you can see that the search volume 4 times in searches from 2020 to 2021 for the search term Pokemon cards. But as you can see right now, where we currently are in the market, that search term has spiked in value, and that is now literally matching 2021's levels. We have the same amount of search volume for Pokemon cards today that we had back in 2021, which was considered the hype period for Pokemon cards. This is crucial knowledge to understand, because when you're thinking, whoa, are Pokemon cards getting more popular? Oh, I think they are. Oh, maybe they are. Well, you can kind of see that the search intent across the world is matching the hype period, and that is very telling. Mind you, we do have prismatic evolutions also coming out, so it kind of does make you think, how strong is this going to get? How in demand are Pokemon cards going to get? Because if you ask me, I don't even think Surging Sparks has hit the roof. I think we're going to see some really crazy demand when Prismatic Evolutions gets released. And I even think in 2025, we're going to see one of the craziest times to be within this hobby. A lot of demand is going to enter this hobby. A lot of people are going to get hyped. A lot of people are going to research older sets. And a lot of people who missed out on Pokemon 151 are going to look back and say, wow, I missed out. I want to now collect Pokemon 151. But guess what? They're going to have to pay overs, because what happens when new people enter the hobby? They start researching older sets. They start looking at older Pokemon cards. If someone stopped around Fusion Strike and now they're re-entering the hobby, they go, what have I missed? And then they search some of the cards and they go, wow, that Greninja's awesome. They look at the 151 Charizard and they go, wow, okay, these prices are getting a little bit high. More and more people are searching Pokemon cards. But what's even more crazy is some of the prices of the top chase cards. Check this out, man. As I was saying, right, the Umbreon right now, I'm gonna just go through these so you can see some of the crazy price increases of Pokemon cards recently, because we have to be careful when we just go off instinct or intuition. Intuition's a powerful tool when you're looking at markets and trends, but we have to also look at data-backed decisions, right? So when I'm getting a little bit of a gut feeling, and I've got this gut feeling and thinking, wow, Pokemon cards are getting more and more popular. I've just got this feeling, I'm running this channel, I can see so much more demand. I'm then looking at it and I go, wow, I need to see if the data backs up my intuition. And that's what's actually happening right now. So we can see in the last 6 months for Umbreon VMAX, right in June this year, we're selling for 871 USD. I want you to look what it's selling for right now. Currently, the Umbreon VMAX is selling for $1,288, pretty much 1,300 US. That kind of pricing to me is just out of the realms of common sense. It doesn't make that much sense to me to have a card that high in price, especially when the PSA pop report is over 13,000. When we pull that into the year graph, you can see how this Moonbrion's traveled. Last year, it was selling for 531 USD. Then it reached a nice high point in May this year for 958. Went back down to around 845 USD, and now look at this, that graph is on 1,288. If you look at that graph, that is an enormous price increase. I mean, if you did buy the Umbreon last year, you have doubled your money. How can anyone say that that is a bad purchase? So when people say, oh, Pokemon collecting, Pokemon investing, just look at the data, right? People that were buying Umbreon last year, if they're selling that Umbreon today, which it doesn't look like they'll have any trouble selling it right now, especially because the hype is so high, you can even see maybe in the next 6 months, it might even triple in value if the momentum keeps going in its favor. Moving forward, we can also see another very popular card, and I do feel this one's gonna grow a little bit more as well, especially with Surging Sparks, how we have Latias and Latios, but this card from Team Up is them together in an amazing pose, the alternate art, and you can even see this one was selling in June for 784 USD, and right now selling for 959. If I pull that into the year graph, mind you, this is a very rare card, you can see that the low point in the market was around March this year for 722 USD, and right now selling for 959. Definitely had some crazy growth, but you can see in that last 3 months where the growth is kind of going for this card. You can also see that there's a new hype and momentum building within Pokemon collecting at the moment. Same thing with a more recent card, which is the Bubble Mew, the special illustration rare. You can see in the last 3 months, look at this price increase. August, it was selling for 91 USD. Right now, selling for 175 USD. Super big price jumps. Now, this special illustration rare Mew just recently decided to explode in value, and it's obviously got a lot of hype behind it. A lot of people are invested in this card at the moment. But again, you can see that price increase has been quite monumental. Moving forward to another card that's really having some price growth in the last 3 months is the Rayquaza. You can see earlier in August, it was selling for 385, and currently it's selling for 452. Interesting Interestingly though, if we pull that into the year graph, you can see that that's not actually the high. The high it had was in June this year, where I believe it was selling for a little bit higher than that. Yeah, 542 USD. So you can see right now it's still around 100 USD off its previous high. But if this momentum keeps going, I wouldn't be surprised to see this Rayquaza make a new high point in the market. Same thing with the Gengar VMAX. The Gengar VMAX, if you can see right here on the last 3 months, is really climbing in value. It's really growing. You can see right here, it was selling in September for 301 USD. Right now it's at 357 USD. We pull that into the year graph and you can see the previous high in the market was around 409 USD. I think it's very likely that this Gengar will match its previous high or exceed it within the next 3 to 6 months. I think it's going to be a very interesting time to be within this hobby. Same thing with another very popular Sword and Shield alternate art, the Giratina V. You can see right now in the last 6 months, this has had some crazy price swings. It was going off from a very high point of 476 and now it's selling at 381. We pull that into the year graph, and if you have a very overarching bird's eye view of that graph, you can see that it went up, it dipped a little bit, but now it's on another rise. Will it exceed its previous high? This is the question a lot of collectors want answered. And this does bring up a lot of questions, and I think collectors are wondering, should you invest in Pokemon collectibles? Well, I actually do answer the 4 reasons why I think everyone should look into alternative investing forms. If you love collecting Pokemon cards and you love investing in collectibles, I recommend you click this video that's appearing on screen right now. We'll talk more about it there, and I'll see you there.